Okay, thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. Uh, the Bonita Democratic Council's endorsement meeting for the Congressional District 31 and the Assembly District 41 races. Each candidate is scheduled to join us by Zoom tonight for a maximum of 15 minutes. They have been given candidate instructions. Each candidate will be given a 5-minute allotment for an opening statement. They will be given three questions. All three questions have been communicated to the candidates. And then they will be given 2 minutes to provide a closing. As I said, the three questions that we will be posing to the candidates are identical in nature. All three will answer the same questions. These questions are drawn from the California Democratic Party's party platform. And so we are drawing our three standard questions for all candidates, both congressional and assembly, from our party's platform. The first one will be energy and environment, the second will be from education, and the third will be on healthcare. This is in addition to the pre-endorsement questionnaire that we sent out and received completed questionnaires from each and every candidate. These questions are in addition to those pre-endorsement questionnaires. And those questionnaires are located in our agenda packet Google Drive. I will be putting that link into our chat. But if you are on our distribution list, you should have received that at least twice at this point, that communication and those links. And so it looks like we do have our first candidate that has joined us. So timekeeper, are you ready? David, are you ready?
I'm ready, Matt. I'm ready for you.
So without further ado, please allow me to invite Phlunte Riddle, a candidate for the Assembly District 41, to offer her opening statement.
Hello there. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How are you? So my name is Phlunte Riddle, and I am a candidate for State Assembly District 41. And just to give you a little bit of background on me, I grew up in the Altadena community, went to Pasadena Unified School Districts. I grew up primarily with a single mom after my father and she divorced, and with my two sisters. And I, was happy in Altadena. But what I did notice that my mom worked 2 jobs. And in that time, she worked as an LVN and often had to have a second job to offset our income disparities. And so she did what we know now is in-home care for a senior. We moved 4 times by the time I was in the 10th grade. And that caused me to be a bit insecure about housing, and didn't really know until I became a teenager that literally we were renters. And so I married right out of high school and moved just down the street, if you will, into Pasadena. And that's where I pretty much have had my life in Pasadena, married with 3 children. And my husband and I, he worked at Lockheed Aircraft 26 years. He is a machinist, and he was also the union steward. So we are a strong union family. I started at the Pasadena Police Department when I was already had 2 children, young children, and it was tough. I was an affirmative action hire, and it was a very grueling time because women weren't really accepted. So as an African-American woman, I found off very quickly that there was disparities in how I was treated. But that's okay, because they say what doesn't kill you will make you stronger, and I'm definitely stronger. I promoted through the ranks. I didn't know that I was a change agent until years later, but In doing so, I was able to affect change as a sergeant level and at the lieutenant level. When I retired after nearly 29 years, I went back and got my doctoral degree in psychology and was a consultant. I did some adjunct professor teaching, and I also did run unsuccessfully for a Senate, but it was a great learning tool. Mr. Holden, Assembly Member Holden, asked me to be his district director, which I was proud to do. And I have worked the district. I've worked on very complex legislative matters with him, including the goal line, mental health, dealing with public safety, and a lot of regional issues. Bringing money into the district was very, very important to me. I did that for 3 years, and in October of 2019, was contacted by the governor's office and asked to submit and I became a commissioner for juvenile hearings. And so that of all juveniles who are in custody, I conduct their discharge consideration hearings, trauma-informed care, as well as help them to obtain transition back into the community and job skills. One of the things I did want to address is some of the things that have been passed around via the internet about me teaching as an adjunct professor at Biola, as well as some other work I did. I taught criminal justice at 3 universities, but one particular is Biola. I was recruited to teach there, as they had never had an African-American a law enforcement person to teach. And I taught criminal justice, and I taught unequal justice and ethics and bias-based policing. In the contract, it asks, basically, do you believe in God? The answer is yes. Do you believe in Jesus? The answer is yes. In a sense of what do you believe about marriage? I believe that marriage is between individuals who love one another. The Bible is very clear that love is love and that you don't discriminate. I was quite surprised when they didn't push back on that I would never discriminate against anyone, and I'm not qualified, nor do I intend to ever teach theology. But at the end of the day, I was happy that I could impact young adults who are going to be teaching in communities that look like my 3 African-American sons, to know how to treat people, what's expected of them, and how to recognize their own biases, and that everyone doesn't come from the same social economic background. So thank you very much, Bonita Dims, for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Okay, so thank you so much. Now we're going into our Q&A portion. These are the 3 questions that we advanced to all of the candidates. The first question is going to be on energy and environment. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We believe California must lead in forging a robust global solution to the climate crisis. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize to address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
Well, I was happy to support and to be a part of Pasadena 100, which is the city of Pasadena has decided to actually embrace, which means that by the year of 2030, we will reduce our fossil fuel use and reduce our carbon footprint. And in that, it was very important that support also the new Green Deal with action steps on the state and federal level to have a comprehensive energy security and climate protections. Also to look at how we utilize those areas that we have right now. A lot of people don't know, but in some cities we still have, or people are using coals. They will transition out, like Pasadena in 2027. But that is an area that is harming our environment. So we have to also work on making sure that good union jobs are transitioning to green jobs, but to also ensure that they can get paid in a manner so that they are more acclimated to move forward. So moving union jobs into a zero carbon and our alternative domestic energy protective sectors is going to be critical. The goal line is a key piece in the San Gabriel Valley and throughout the Los Angeles County to ensure, you may not call it the goal line, but to ensure that each person can literally, that each person can literally have an alternative to using their cars. And so throughout the San Gabriel Valley, I am absolutely committed to helping to get that our transportation from the Ontario airport to the Burbank airport. Can you put yourself on mute and block your camera, please? Thank you. All right, Matt, thank you.
Thank you, Phlunte.
I couldn't tell if my time was up. I thought someone was saying something to me. That's why I stopped talking.
Okay, well, we have question 2 now. Question 2 is on education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, Californian students must have access to world-class pre-K through 12 public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? What are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Wow, that's a packed question there. Okay, so I believe in universal preschool. I'm absolutely committed to ensuring that every child starts as early as possible if they're capable, because the earlier you start, the better for the child. All evidence has pointed to, and in my professional life as a police officer, as well as a commissioner working with incarcerated youth, I know that every child doesn't get the same opportunity. And so we have to do more with our public school systems to ensure that they have the tools they need, regardless of their zip code. Their zip code should not determine their accessibility to a good education. I also strongly believe that we need to bring services back on campus and to our public schools to ensure that if children need the regional center services, that they should receive that. I met so many individuals and interviewed so many youth that needed regional center services, but their parents didn't know how to access them. Schools should be a partner in that, because the individual teachers see these students every day, know about their reading, their writing, their comprehension, and so they can be a good partner. That is, I think, a key also. And for the high school levels, I like to see more vocational opportunities for them. I've taken a number of tours throughout this campaign season with unions, and they have wonderful apprenticeship programs that could go on school campuses. So one of the areas I worked with Assemblymember Holden was dual education, so that high school students could take junior college courses prior to their graduation, but also vocational training. And so I think the LA Building Trades and the other SEIUs and longshoremen, they would have an opportunity to get those skills, because everybody's not going to go to college. I know that. And so regarding charter schools, I believe that we need to continue as we are. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, I'm not for expanding charter schools.
Okay, now our third and final Q&A is healthcare related. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded, single-payer, privately delivered, fiscally tractable, affordable, comprehensive, secure, high-quality, efficient, and sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
So I do believe in universal, the healthcare. COVID pandemic really showed us that we already knew there were inequities, but we're absolutely sure there are inequities now. We saw it throughout this last 3 years. And I believe that we can ensure that we get healthcare coverage for all Two of my sisters and one of my sons are on what we affectionately call Obamacare, and we need to extend to ensure that all individuals have the services that they need. Healthcare should not just be for those that are wealthy or can afford it. And so one of the areas that I want to work on with my colleagues once I'm in the assembly is how to push forward a universal health care, ensuring that it includes the areas that all individuals need, such as dental and vision, hearing aids. My godfather literally had to pay $3,000 for his hearing aids because he had a special inner ear condition. That's unacceptable. He could not afford that, and we all chipped in to help. But we also have to make sure that individuals have the right to seek an abortion if they choose to, preventive services, and prescription drugs. It's outrageous what prescription drugs cost for these days. But that also, and I spoke earlier about the mental health piece. Every individual, needs to have the access they need so that they can have prevention. But one area is that I know some people struggle with when I was going through working with some of the nonprofits was having insurance pay for substance abuse counseling and long-term care. Today I was with SEIU 2015, and they were speaking about the long-term health care that some of their patients needed, and insurance weren't covering it. And so Medicare and Medi-Cal have not been brought up to speed with what costs are. And so we need to ensure that we take care of people in those areas.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That concludes the Q&A portion, and you have up to 2 minutes to close.
Well, I thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm so excited to have be working with the Bonita Dems as well as the rest of the district. But I believe that what my experience is already with working in the community where I've grown up, I have a very strong team. The strategy group, they ran Mr. Holden's campaign for the last 12 years. They know the district. And also they ran Mayor Karen Bass's team. So they're not afraid of anyone bringing in, more financial, more money. But at the end of the day, it's the candidate. And I've done the work. I know the district, and I have a large group of individuals who are supporting me that will help me cross that line. My endorsements are, I just picked up the endorsement today from ASME District Council 36, UFCW Western District, as well as SEIU California. But I'm most happy and pleased that Assemblymember Chris Holden has endorsed me and has the confidence that I will continue the strong leadership and work that he has done in our district. And I thank you so much for having me here today. I look forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And since we're running a little late, I'm going to quickly transition to our next candidate who has been more than patient with us. So, Gil Cisneros, are you on the Zoom?
I'm here.
Well, welcome. So please allow me to welcome you to Bonita Democratic Council's Zoom meeting for endorsements for the Congressional District 31 and Assembly District 41. You have 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you're all having a good day, but I want to thank you for having me here today. I am Gil Cisneros, running for the congressional seat in the 31st District. Just to tell you a little bit about me, my life has really been defined by service. And that's something that I've got from my family. My grandfathers both served in World War II. My godfather served in Korea. My dad, my uncles were all Vietnam veterans. And I knew that I wanted to follow in their footsteps. And so when I was 18 years old, I joined the Navy. And 5 days after I graduated high school, I was off to boot camp. But I also joined the Navy because I knew I wanted to make something out of my life. But I didn't know how to do that. my mother had never graduated from high school, and her goal really, it was for all her 4 kids to do what she wasn't able to do. But fortunately for me, I met a chief petty officer while I was in the Navy who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself yet. And he recommended that I apply for this program that led to a Navy scholarship and a college education. That program changed my life, and it put it on a different trajectory than I had ever imagined for myself. I became the first one in my family to graduate from college. I went on to get an MBA and then another master's degree in urban education policy as well. But I'm forever grateful for the opportunity that the Navy provided me to change my life through education. But after 10 years in the Navy, I settled down. I had met my wife, Jackie, while I was in the Navy. She was living in Pico Rivera, California. And when I got out, I moved in with her. We settled down, got married. She had worked in news. I had worked at, got a job working as a manager over at Frito-Lay, visiting the different areas around Rancho Cucamonga, the City of Industry. Grace Napolitano was my congresswoman. And a few of you may have heard, around 2010, I had another life-changing event. I won the Mega Millions California lottery. And the first thing that Jackie and I did was we decided to start a foundation focused on education to really help, kids that were in situations like me that knew they wanted to make something better of their life, but weren't really sure how to go about doing that. So we created a program that provided college scholarships, college access programs. We help kids find that path. We help kids throughout the San Gabriel Valley, San Dimas, Salmani, Covina, to Azusa, to Pico Rivera. And now we have a program that provides scholarships not only around California, but all to kids all around the United States. And we're very proud of the work that we've done in order to help those kids find their path to success. But in 2016, Donald Trump entered the world of politics. And then I knew I needed to do more. And so that was when I decided to run for Congress. And fortunately for me, I was able to turn and flip a red seat to blue in 2018 and headed the Congress with a Democratic majority. But while I was in Congress, right, well, we passed a number of items supporting our dreamers, supporting women's rights, supporting a number of issues. We continually ran into a Republican roadblock in the Senate and Donald Trump in the White House with his divisive policies. While I was in Congress, me and my colleagues, worked together, demanding, fought with other colleagues, co-authored the first. We authored an op-ed that led to the first impeachment of Donald Trump. But again, like I said, I fought for women's, girls, and families because abortion care and reproductive health care, it's a right, not a privilege. I'm proud to have a 100% score from Planned Parenthood. I fought for working families and proud to have a 100% scorecard from AFL-CIO. My mother was an SEIU. Well, I'm proud to have the endorsements currently of SEIU, operating engineers, the painters, sheet metal workers who've endorsed my campaign so far. Public education changed my life, and I had a 100% scorecard from the NEA and the California Teachers Association. I partnered with Grace Napolitano to protect the water and fight to ensure that we tackle climate change, improve air quality, and address healthcare issues related to pollution and fossil fuels in the area. I earned a 100% scorecard from the League of Conservation Voters for standing up for our kids and the environment. I'm honored to have their endorsement again. I just got that this week. I never got a chance to meet my grandfather, my mother's father, because he was a victim of gun violence.
Thank you, Gil.
And I know the impact that has had generationally on my family. We've experienced that. So that's why I partnered with Giffords when they were starting out from the beginning.
Thank you, Gil.
That we work on.
That's time. So we're going to
Time, that's time.
transition.
That was time? Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay.
No worries, no worries. So we're going to transition to our Q&A portion. All of the candidates were advanced these questions prior to the meeting. The first question is going to be on energy and environment. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
When I was at the Department of Defense, the climate change is one of the biggest threats to our national security that we saw. So in Congress, when I was there before, I was proud to work with Congresswoman Napolitano on climate change. I saw firsthand the importance of water issues to the San Gabriel Valley, to the state of California, and our need to ensure that we provide safe drinking water for all of Southern California. I refuse to take contributions from oil companies, fossil fuel companies. I want to make sure that we are able to carry on we won't carry any legislation for them. It's why I'm the only candidate endorsed by the California environmental voters and the League of Conservation voters. And in Congress, I promise to carry on what I did before to protect our environment, to make sure that we try to negate climate change. And again, like I said, the Department of Defense see this as a national security threat, and it's time for Congress to start acting like that and making sure that we take the actions to really kind of work towards changing the way forward and making sure that we make an impact in protecting our planet.
Thank you. Question number 2 is about education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to world-class pre-K through 12th grade public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? What are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Well, I don't support charter schools. I do not believe, as some do, that they are the cure-all to our educational problems. That is not the case at all. But I will tell you, as the Undersecretary, I served as the Undersecretary of Defense in the Biden administration for personnel and readiness. I oversaw the Department of Defense educational activities. As I stated earlier, I have a master's degree in urban education policy, so I know how important early education is to the development of a child and the lasting effects that it has on them later into life when we do this. Now, that's why I made sure that we got the funding to implement universal pre-K in all the Department of Defense elementary schools. And these are schools that we have around the world that educate the children of our service members. The Department of Defense will be implementing a universal pre-K. I pushed that agenda to make sure that it got done. It's one of the proudest things that I've done, and I went there with that I was going to make that happen while I was there. So I'm proud that I was able to get it done. But we need to ensure that we support our schools. We need to make sure that when we put federal mandates on them, that we are fully funding those mandates, and so that the school districts don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul. But like as I said, education changed my life. I know how impactful it is, and we need to make sure that we provide that same opportunity to future children.
Okay, and our third question has to do with healthcare. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded, single-payer, privately delivered, fiscally tractable, affordable, comprehensive, secure, and high-quality sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
While I served as the Undersecretary of Defense, not only did I oversee our educational system for our military children, I also oversaw the child development centers, but I also oversaw the defense health system. And so I know about the rising cost of medical services and what it's done, and had to deal with it on a weekly basis as to do and how we were fighting to keep costs down, and the rising cost of prescriptions, for individuals, the rising cost of medical care, the shortage of nurses that are continuing to leave the industry. We're going to be facing, we are facing right now, a mental health crisis with the lack of providers and not being able to provide the healthcare across the nation, the mental health care, because mental health care is health care to the number of individuals that need it and seek this help and support. My mother, had to go without health care for a number of years because my parents couldn't afford it. My dad lost his job, they lost their insurance. And I will tell you this, like when my mother turned 65, I never saw somebody so excited to be on Medicare because she was able to go visit the doctor. She was able to make sure that she got her health care. And that's why I've always supported, the Medicare option for people to buy into the system. I supported the Obamacare, and it's good to see that we just don't really see it under attack, but there are still things that we need to do to strengthen it, like put the Medicare option in there that it originally intended to have, to ensure that people are getting the health care that they need and that they deserve and that they have a right to. And so I will work with my colleagues, whether in the House, work with individuals across the state and the country to ensure that we do what we can to strengthen our healthcare system, provide affordable and access, so people have access to affordable healthcare when they need it.
Okay. So that's it with the 3 questions. Thank you so much. We're going to transition to closing statements. You have up to 2 minutes.
Well, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity today. As I said at the beginning, service has always been a part of who I am, and I believe that service to our country and our community and our fellow Americans really defines my purpose and who I am. And it's about ensuring that opportunities that we create for ourselves are available to all. I'm ready to stand with you, to be your voice, and to work for the betterment of our country, and I would humbly ask for you to join me. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Bold PAC, and Los Angeles congressional leaders like Nanette Barragan, Tony Cardenas, and Linda Sanchez. I have the support of SEIU and other labor unions. The environmental voters and the League of Conservation voters know that I am the best candidate in this race to support their agenda. And Bonita leaders like Chris Ann Horsley and Greg Pilato have also endorsed my campaign. So I'd ask you to go to gilonthehill.com, check out our website, join our campaign. And I want to thank you all for this opportunity to speak to you today, and I look forward to speaking with you all again soon. So take care, and thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. And we are going to transition to our next candidate. I see that she is in the waiting room, so let me let her in. Okay, well, welcome. We have Susan Rubio, who is one of our candidates for Congressional District 31. You have 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me as a lifelong Democrat and a 20-year delegate to the party, as 2-term executive e-board to the party. I just want to say, first of all, thank you. I know what you do and how important it is. But I wanted just to share that right now I'm the current senator in CD 31. I currently represent 13 of the 15 cities in this district. And I've been honored and humbled to be a teacher in this district, also an elected city clerk where I ran elections, making sure that our democracy is safe and encourage others to vote and be engaged. I've also been a council member, and as a council member, I worked really hard to ensure that we had equity. And by way of example, my first order of business was making sure that our commissions had 50% women in our board. So I passed an ordinance that now mandates that people have to fill those positions 50-50, which I'm very proud of. Now I'm a state senator, and I've been really adamant about fixing the homeless crisis. So today I have the largest housing trust in the state of California. I built approximately 1,000 housing affordable units. We're housing the homeless. I created, with the help of the COG, I created at least 3 tiny villages where we're, housing people that are on the street. We're feeding them. We're giving them services they need and deserve. We also created SGV Works. Again, everything that I do is in collaboration with the San Gabriel Valley, CD31, and all the cities that I will continue to represent. And now I'm honored to say that we transitioned at least over 100 individuals that were unhoused into permanent housing with opportunities for a job. I also believe in higher education and job creation. So I brought in this year $8.5 million, and we're building a college of health and community well-being in collaboration with the University of Laverne that will produce the next generation of healthcare workers. We know that healthcare workers are quitting at record numbers, they're stressed and overworked, and so hopefully this will alleviate that problem in the future. We also want to make sure that we have enough mental health professionals. And one of the commitments from the University of Laverne was that they're going to subsidize the tuition for low-income families. So I hope that they not only do they get a career, but they also leave college not having debt. Another thing that I'm very proud of is the work that I've done in the environment space. You know, currently I'm building 2 parks in the most park poor areas in LA County, one in Baldwin Park and the other one in La Puente, both CD31. And so as of today, I'm the only person that actually has lived in the district the entire time. I didn't move in. I didn't pick it from a map. I'm very honored that I have roots in the community. I lived here. I've taught here. I've represented here, and I want to continue to do so. And I continue to partner with our Democratic clubs to ensure that we safeguard our democracy. Right now, I continue to be a staunch supporter of women's rights, women reproductive rights, and also I've received numerous awards on my work on domestic violence, making sure that women, children are safe from violence in the home. And I will continue to do that. But I know I have 5 minutes, and I want to just turn it over to you, but please know that I would be honored to have your endorsement and support. Again, as the only person that has lived in the district, represents the district, and has been a lifelong Democrat. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much for your opening statement. We're going to transition to our 3 Q&A questions. First question being on energy and environment. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize and address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
Well, let me start by saying that it's a space where I've done a lot of work. I'm the co-chair to the Wildfire Working Group in the Senate, and I spent the last 3 years working with my colleagues, and we've done a lot of work on doing, in particular, analyzing what the dangers are for our future. And I know that climate change is a big issue, but also the threat of wildfires is the way I see it. That's a silent killer. When we did the analysis of, you know, the work that we put forward that gets dismantled every time there's a wildfire, you know, the data is really saddening. And so we need to do a lot more to mitigate wildfires, which is really what's, you know, putting these toxins into the air. So I bought, as I shared with you earlier, the largest funding for the San Gabriel Valley, $12 million, which now is creating open space, cleanup, water cleanup. We are making sure that there's urban forest, and we're trying to mitigate the issues that happened during the wildfire you know, season, where we had the Bobcat fire that literally ruined the mountaintop. And so right now we're restoring the parks, the watersheds, making sure that we have space for family to gather once again. And the other thing that I've done is right now, currently I'm working with a climate change work group, and we're pushing a bond right now that's going to ensure that we have the funding that we need. Everything boils down to access to funding, especially in our communities. What I think we should do is make sure that we support our local communities because they cannot do it themselves. And so, you know, I will continue to fight for these issues. I live in the most park-poor city that's nestled between three freeways. We have the highest asthma in the entire LA County. And I want to make sure to continue to correct that. I saw it as a teacher, and I've seen it as a senator, and we need to continue to push for quality air and quality water and projects that are going to ensure that we continue to set the stage for the next generation of our youth to be able to live in, you know, clean air and good communities.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question number 2 is about education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to world-class pre-K through 12 public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? What are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Well, I would like to say that I will not do. I've been doing that since I've been a teacher for 17 years. I've taught in Monrovia Unified School District, a proud member of CTA. I served on my union board for 5 years. And what we've done is really tried to level the playing field. The catalyst for me wanting to run for state senate was that as a teacher, I was in the front line of every social, emotional, and economic issue facing our communities, from my family sleeping in cars to my kids coming to class hungry, everything that we know, it just shouldn't be happening, not in California, not in the United States. So I hope to continue to support my teachers. I partner with CTA to tackle a lot of the most pressing issues. Right now, for the last 3 years, I've been trying to pass mandatory kindergarten, which is what happens when our kids don't go to kindergarten. They come to school with already a 2-year gap in their education. So the teachers union, myself, we're continuing to try and make sure that kinder is mandatory, not only to ensure that our kids have the education they deserve, but that the schools are getting the funding they deserve. As it pertains to charter schools, it's something that they're here, and we have to figure out how do we live with those schools that already exist. And I think we need to unionize them. We need to hold them accountable as teachers in public schools. And I was an administrator as well for 3 years. We know what we have to deal with, and I think we have to demand that charter schools are treated with the same accountability. And again, my goal is that they're unionized like we are in public schools.
Thank you so much. So we're going to transition to our third question. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded, single-payer, privately delivered, affordable, and comprehensive healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
Well, thank you for that question. First of all, I absolutely agree. We need a health care system that works for everyone. Being formerly undocumented as a child, I know as an undocumented individual what we dealt with. We had to fend for ourselves when we got hurt. We had to fend for ourselves when we had broken bones. And I don't want any of our families to ever experience what we experienced as an undocumented family. So one of the things that I did do is I partnered with Scott Wiener. There's a bill that we passed recently, SB 770, which is going to set the tone. I know a lot of agencies thought it might not be aggressive enough, but it was supported by LA County Fed and a lot of the healthcare and Dem clubs and other organizations, because what it will do is it will start, the process in motion to ensure that we're working with our federal government. The first step to universal healthcare is making sure that we have the waivers that we need from the federal government. So as the next Congresswoman, I'm going to make sure that that's the first order of business, that we work with our local agencies, our state partners, and making sure that we provide the necessary waivers so that they can create their healthcare for all process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We now open it up to a 2-minute closing statement.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm sorry I'm in a place that's very loud, but I really wanted to come and meet with you. I really want to share something with you. I've been representing this community as an elected official for 20 years. The last 5 years as a state senator. As I shared with you, I represent 13 of the 15 cities in this district. And most of you that know me, I work 7 days a week. I am not a drive-by Democrat nor a drive-by, engaged legislator. I am very present in my community, and I care very much about my community as a teacher, as an elected. And I hope that you also care enough to want someone that knows, especially that I service, our community is immigrant. There's a lot of undocumented families. There's a lot of families that really represent who I am, and they, understand that I know their issues personally. I lived them. As the only deported legislator in history, I can tell you the issues that my community face is issues that I lived. And I hope that when I go to Congress, I got deported 45 years ago, and we're still dealing with the same issues today. I don't want to say I want to fix the issue because I don't want to disrespect those our legislators, congresswomen and men that have already been working on this issue. But I think that having the voice of someone that's actually been deported, that's lived it, that's been separated from her family, I think we can move the needle on this issue. So I hope to work on, education, healthcare, making sure that I continue to work on policies for housing and homelessness, which has been my passion. I've been an advocate for domestic violence. In fact, I just got the award from Peace Over Violence, the humanitarian award for all the policies I passed to protect children, families that are now experiencing violence in their home. So I hope that you, look at some of my policies, and everything that I've done is very geared towards families in our communities. And one of the issues that I always champion is making sure that we work together as a region. I partner with the COG, the Sangre Valley Council of Governments, to ensure that when I create housing, it's not just for my community. I created housing across the Sangre Valley. Even though I represent 16 cities, 23 cities now belong to my housing trust.
Time.
And there's
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will be transitioning to our next candidate, who is Bob Archuleta. And Mr. Archuleta, are you on and can you hear us?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. So please allow me to welcome you to the Bonita Democratic Council's endorsement meeting. And we'll kick you off with your 5-minute opening statement.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate being here with Bonita Democratic Council, its members. Once again, I am Senator Bob Archuleta, and I am so proud and honored to be among such strong Democrats. And I'm here to share with you that I am running for the 31st Congressional District. Grace Napolitano, very, very important. Grace Napolitano has endorsed me for this position. And because of that, she felt that better than any other of the candidates, that I would be able to follow in her footsteps with the ideals of the Democratic Party. And it obviously what we're talking about tonight about energy, education, and healthcare. So with the environment being so strong, and we'll talk about that, I guess, with the questions, but I want to share with you, I'm a combat veteran. I served in the 82nd Airborne, a former paratrooper. I've raised 5 kids and all educated. My oldest son played football for USC and graduated, daughter out of Pepperdine, daughter out of Chapman, and 2 sons out of West Point. And service has been something I've always done because I served as the mayor of the city of Pico Rivera. I've served in law enforcement with the city of Montebello. I've been the LA County Commissioner of Military and Veterans Affairs, representing the entire LA County area to include the area that we're speaking of. And also, I've been able to participate in every single meeting that we've had in reference to the Democratic Party. And I've been so proud and honored to receive the Teamsters endorsement, SEIU, California, IBEW, the LPOA, which is the Latino Police Officers Association. But again, as I started off with Grace Napolitano, and we've got Fiona Ma, Anthony Rendon, and Tom Torlinson, a former superintendent of education. So I am ready to begin this meeting with the positive feelings that I have for all of you, and I'm sure you will with me when we conclude the meeting. And I'm excited, Mr. President. I hope that's enough, and I didn't use up my time. But as a senator, I work hard for the community, and I will take it across into the 31st Congressional District.
Thank you so much. And moreover, thank you for respecting the time limits and not having to get the hook off. So we're going to transition to our 3 Q&A questions. The first one being on energy and the environment. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We believe California must lead in forging a robust global solution to the climate crisis. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize and address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
Well, Mr. President, I think that everyone must know this, that we are the fourth largest economy in the world, and we should be able to take charge of our environment here in California and set the tone across the state, across the nation, and into the world, and set that example that if we can do it in California, we can do it anywhere. And I will tell you this, is I have a very, very unique position among my competitors because I am the chair of the Military Veterans Committee. I am the chair of the Hydrogen Committee, which means that I am working with energy, I'm working with alternative methods that we're trying to work with, and I work hand in hand with the governor because of the fact that we are trying to find a system and to go ahead and introduce the clean and climate change. It is very important that we tell everybody, California, we've got a treasure chest of energy. We've got to open it up to everything, whether it be solar, wind, whatever, hydrogen. We've got to be ready to hit 2035 with the ground running. And we're trying to transition automobiles and trains and everything else. And one of the things is hydrogen. And I've spent time in Japan. I've made 2 visits over there to analyze what they're doing with hydrogen. I've been conducting meetings and we are opening up the doors, and California is going to set the pace across the nation and for this new energy. And I will tell you this, Grace Napolitano, one of her big fights has always been clean water, clean energy, and transportation. I'm going to follow that suit, and we're going to continue to make sure that California is a leader when it comes to our clean environment and making sure we address everything we possibly can to fund whatever we can to make sure that our children and their children have a clean environment every single day. And so it's so important that we fight together. And as Democrats, we've got to lead the way to show the world we can do this together.
Thank you. Question number 2 is about education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to world-class pre-K through 12 public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? What are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Thank you for the question, Tracy. I will tell you this, I am a product of public schools. And I will tell you that it's the teachers that changed my life. And I'm going to tell you a very quick story about Mrs. Perez, a teacher. God love her. May she rest in peace. But I was in the 8th grade. I was a runaway and selling flowers in the streets of East LA and Lincoln Heights and not able to read here in the 8th grade. But it was Mrs. Perez that walked me through every single grade, 1st, 2nd, all the way up to the 8th grade. And when I finally got there, I became competitive. I became part of the student council, and I opened up my life. I would never have become a senator, raise these 5 kids of mine to educate themselves, had it not been for that public education. So as my kids prepared themselves, they did the same thing. And that's why 2 of my sons have also, as I mentioned, went on to West Point, and one's got his PhD, and the other one's got his master's, Special Forces Green Beret, Matthew, my youngest. And I will tell you that we've got to open up the doors completely across the board because the children belong to all of us. And yes, we have some in charter schools, and of course we have public education. I wish we could join them together because I find it unfair that we're not giving the public school teachers and the charter school teachers equal opportunity for equal pay and equal opportunities to grow and expand. So equality is a big thing. And obviously in the charter schools, they got a little different. They may not have the accountability that public schools have. So we've got to balance that scale. We got to bring them up. But remember, they're our kids as well as everyone else's. So we can't turn our backs on them, but we have to implement some way of communicating because athletics, the arts, drama, you name it, that is so prevalent in public schools, we need to share that when we can. And remember, athletically, making the kids competitive to be able to compete with one another. But there's one thing the public schools do, and that is to bring in all the kids, like the
Thank you, Senator.
traviesos that I was, to make sure that whether they're disabled, they have issues, they're going to be in schools, and our teachers are the ones who handle all the kids. And I think it's time to bring that to
That's
light.
time.
We cannot hurt a single child because we're not giving them everything we can. Thank you.
That's time for that question. Thank you so much. We're going to transition to our third Q&A question. This one's on healthcare. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded, single-payer, privately delivered, affordable, comprehensive, and sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
Well, let's take that message across the nation. Let's take it to Washington. As California does, the nation shall. Treating everybody equally and fairly, giving everyone an opportunity to good public, not only education, but health. And I've said this 1,000 times. You take an 8-story building or a 4-story building in the inner city and someone gets sick, everyone's going to get sick. We have to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to get into our hospitals, affordable, quality healthcare. It's got to be whatever system we're able to get down the road, but we can't turn people away from an emergency. In one of my cities, Montebello, we had to close the doors at the Beverly Hospital. I fought for that, to open the doors, to get them $5 million to keep the doors open. I negotiated with White Memorial Hospital to come in and take over that area. And because of the fact that they serve the underprivileged, and we have to make sure that it doesn't matter where you were born, where you came from, you have that equal opportunity for good, affordable health care. And I'm going to take that message to Washington, because I've taken that message here and I voted in that direction. And that's the Democratic way. And I'm going to maintain that across the board. So I'm going to stand up for our nurses, doctors, and everyone else and make sure that they open the doors. But we've got to open the doors educationally, so we have Latinos and Latinos can speak the language to get into schools, get into medical schools, and be able to be part of it. And that's why Ultimate is so happy with me, because I've been to their clinics time and time again to thank them for what they do, because they don't ask anybody where they were born. And I've never done that. And I know this, that when you're here with me, you're here with the nation, you belong to us, and we should make sure we take care of your family, your health, and make sure you're well educated and well treated. Every American, everybody should have access to good quality health care. And cuando es necesario de hablar español, por eso lo vamos a hacer, para ayudar a todos. And when we have the opportunity to help everybody, we're going to do that. And that's why that fight is there. And I will tell you this, growing up in the streets of Lincoln Heights and East LA and running around as I did, I knew that one day I was going to be able to help a lot of people. And that's why when I was appointed by President Barack Obama to serve our nation at West Point, I've done that and will continue to serve the Democratic Party. Thank you.
Okay, that's time. Thank you so much. We now transition to your closing statement. You have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, I thank you for allowing me to speak before you. And I know the thousands of members that you have. It is so important that the message gets out to everybody. When we talk about men and women who are struggling right now, we have more people on strike than ever, no matter where you go. And that's why I was on the picket line in the city of Downey with the healthcare workers. I was there to make sure that everybody understood, while I was on Channel 2, that we've got to take care of our healthcare workers, our first responders. When I was in Santa Anita racetrack with the Teamsters, and the issue was about trucks that would be driving without the driver, which would be crazy. It was impossible. And I asked the Teamsters, how did all these massive trucks get here? They got here because they were driven by a human being. So we had to fight for that. And I will continue to fight every way I possibly can to get the message out that we are Democrats. We can stand up for this country, and we can be fair and equitable, and we can open our doors to help everybody and create a pathway for citizenship, create a pathway for better education, and to make sure that bilingual education is there, to make sure that we open the doors fairly and equitably, and make sure that we have a decent wage for those first responders and nurses, people who make our food, clean our schools and our streets. We've got to go ahead and set the tone. And I believe the Democratic Party is going to do that with our president. And by the way, I was able to spend 2 hours with President Joe Biden, and there was 4 of us. Why? Because he knew I served Barack Obama, our #1 Democrat, and he knows I was with him back then, and I had that private conversation. Not many people can say that. And I'm proud to say that that kid from East LA was able to spend 2 hours with our president. And I will continue this, that I will help any way I can to bring that flag and that banner that says Democrats are American and America is Democrat. So the Bonita Democratic Council, thank you all, and I appreciate this time, and I would be honored to have your endorsement.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us, and you have a great rest of your night.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope I kept the time frame within the scope of your requirements.
You did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I salute you all. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time to stretch. We are actually a little early, so please allow me to go over some of our housekeeping from earlier for those who have joined us after we started. I just wanted to highlight for those who are either new or veteran members, just wanted to remind everyone of all of the opportunities for you to connect with us. We do have a website, but moreover, we do have a private group and a public presence on Facebook. So if you're on there, we do also have Instagram. Admittedly, we're not as active as we could be. For all of our past speakers programs, they are available on YouTube, as this Zoom will also be. Once we finish tonight, we'll upload it to YouTube, and for those members who weren't able to join us live, we'll be able to enjoy this endorsement meeting at their convenience. Lastly, I wanted to highlight the annual membership. Now that we're in October, we are kicking off our 2024 membership drive. We do have membership as low as $10. And if you join now, that 2024 membership will start immediately, and you'll have a few extra months. Also, just wanted to highlight our 2024 Local Candidates Victory Fund. This is a fund that goes directly towards our election-related activities. We have supported local Democrats, and we'd like to think that we've played a small part in some of their successes. Of course, it always starts with great candidates that we can support, but we have been active in the 2020 and 2022 cycles most recently. And if you have your phone handy, you can scan that QR code and it will take you directly to our Act Blue 2024 Local Candidates Victory Fund. I want to thank everyone who's already joined us and has donated towards this effort. We will be playing an active role in both the March and November cycles. And the more money we're able to raise directly for that effort, the more we're able to support our endorsed candidates. Again, just want to remind you, this is our schedule. And like I said, I'm very thankful that we are still a little early. But I'm going to check our waiting room and see if our next candidate is available.
He is there. Should I let him?
Perfect. Let's get him started. Absolutely.
Can I let the other person in now?
Yes. Welcome. Jed, can you hear us?
I think I can. Yes. Can you all hear me?
Perfect. Yes. So we will open up the floor for your opening statement. You have to 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Oh, I love it. I thought I had 2. Okay, well, I'm going to really go for it then. Thanks for having me, Matt. Good to see you. To everybody else on the call tonight, thank you for the opportunity to be here. let me just introduce myself. I'm glad to be back at the Bonita Democratic Council. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with you my campaign, why I'm running for state assembly. The last time I was here, we were talking about innovative solutions for affordable housing. And I'm glad to see all of you again now, this time seeking your support for the 41st Assembly District. Let me just take things a little bit further back and tell you who I am and tell you why I'm running. I am the son of immigrants from the Philippines. My father was on a Navy ship during the Cuban Missile Crisis. My mother worked nights at the VA hospital, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and rushed home every morning just to make sure that she can get me and my sisters to school in time before 8 o'clock every day. I am here because my parents left the Philippines to give my sisters and I a chance at the American dream. And for the last 17 years, I have been practicing law and doing only one job, and that is working as an immigration attorney, representing whom I believe are the most marginalized, disenfranchised, and underrepresented people in our country, and that is immigrants facing deportation. I've done that for the last 17 years. I've won a lot of battles in immigration court, kept a lot of families together, and that has been my calling for my entire adult life. Although I'll tell you that 5 years ago, I felt a very different and new calling, and that was a calling to enter public service. And it wasn't because of one particular project I was interested in. It wasn't because of a program in the city that I thought needed to be revived. It was because of our ever-increasing homelessness and housing crisis. I ran on a platform to address that issue. I made it squarely the central focus of my campaign, of my time in office. I won election night handily in 2018, and in 2019, I immediately got to work. I lobbied hard to bring back the most successful LA County Measure H cohort in the County of Los Angeles in coordination with our neighbors, Laverne and Pomona. And by my second year in office in 2020, with a fully funded homeless services delivery program, Claremont reduced homelessness by 41%. I am very proud of that track record. And not only did we fully fund and implement a homeless services delivery system, we also made meaningful and impactful reforms in the way that we deliver mental health services to residents of Claremont, especially unhoused neighbors who have extreme difficulty accessing treatment and care. And because of that work in affordable housing and homelessness, I have become recognized as a regional leader on the topics of housing and homelessness. I am now the chair of the San Gabriel Valley Regional Housing Trust, where we have financed over 700 units of permanent supportive housing, affordable housing throughout the San Gabriel Valley. I am now on the board of La Casa. I helped write the law, SB 679, and I now represent the entire San Gabriel Valley on the new LA County Affordable Housing Solutions Agency. And I want to bring that track record of success in housing and homelessness to Sacramento. I believe that we are in the grips of a fundamentally crippling housing crisis, and it is affecting all other areas of policy. Now, along the way, I have certainly learned more than I've accomplished. And along the way, in the process of being a housing and homelessness advocate, I have learned that good housing policy is also good climate policy. Because when you get housing right, you also reduce greenhouse gas emissions by thinking intelligently about how you develop for the future. It is also good social justice and economic policy. Housing policy, when it's done right, can undo decades of exclusionary practices that were meant to segregate people by income and by race. And we can also make sure that we have the ability to expand and grow our economy by stabilizing our workforce and making sure that they can get ahead and that housing costs are not holding them back. So now here I am, 17 years as an immigration lawyer fighting for immigrants facing deportation, 5 years as a council member and regional leader on the most pressing and most difficult issues facing our community. I am prepared
Thank you.
on this challenge. Thank you all for having me, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, so we're going to transition to our three questions that we advanced to the candidates. The first one is going to be energy and environment. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We believe California must lead in forging a robust global solution to the climate crisis. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize and address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
Thank you for the question. There is no doubt that history will define our generation by the way that we were told about climate change and how we chose to respond. I think that the things that we ought to prioritize are frankly the things that we have worked on in the city of Claremont to make sure that we build a more resilient and climate-ready community that is focused on reducing its climate footprint and greenhouse gas emissions. And let me tell you what I'm talking about. In January of 2022, the city of Claremont voted to make the default electrical rate for all residences in the city 100% renewable energy. And we need to be able to streamline and spread that capacity statewide. Number one, because of our program to make 100% renewable the default rate, now almost 97% of all residential households in the city of Claremont are buying their power from portfolios that are 100% renewable. We also need to continue to invest in public transit infrastructure, and we need to develop smart and thoughtful growth and development plans for housing and for commercial development near those public transportation centers. The more that we can do that, the more that we can work to reduce our vehicle miles traveled, our reliance on fossil fuels, our reliance on roads and cars, and our ability to transport without using gasoline every single time we need to take our kids to school, pick up milk from the store, or go to a business downtown. Finally, I think that we need to think about first mile and last mile, and a real priority should be active transportation. I'm proud of the fact that in Claremont, I champion an electric bike rebate program that will give people the ability to make small commute trips using electric bikes, and we can be a part of the electric bike revolution. I also champion the walking school bus. A vast majority of kids in our community are going to schools that are less than half a mile away, and I believe that we need to make walking easier. Was that my call, or do I still have 30 seconds, Matt?
No, we're waiting for the next question.
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
Okay, question number 2. It's about education.
Okay.
We believe we believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to world-class pre-K through 12 public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? And what are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Thank you for the question, Tracy. And there is absolutely no doubt that there was a time decades ago when we made substantial and serious investments in our public education system. And because of that, California schools, our California public schools, were the envy of the nation. There is no doubt about it. And we seem to have lost our way. Let's talk about what that looks like. Now there are teachers who are buying cleaning supplies because districts don't have adequate janitorial services. There are schools that don't have a full-time nurse or a full-time counselor. We are now, decades later, after massive investments, facing, frankly, an uphill battle on how to reverse this trend and turn things around. And let me just tell you that this is not just a policy topic for me to study and to think about and try to postulate on how to make it better. I have a son in the 4th grade in Claremont Public Schools. And just as a matter of values, that was the fundamental choice that we made to make sure that our son availed himself to public education here in our community, because that's what our tax dollars are going to. So number one, what can we do to support our students and the people who are educating them? Number one is, at first and foremost, school safety. There is a new reality for parents of my generation who, every time that they drop off their child at school, They are fundamentally concerned about safety, and that is because gun violence is now one of the leading causes of death in the United States. And so we have to make sure that we have adequate opportunities to provide safety for all children and all staff and faculty at all of our schools. Number two, let's take a look at the UTLA strike. If you listen to what their demands were, they weren't asking for the moon. They were asking to be able to afford a place to live. They were basically fundamentally demanding, please pay us so that I don't become homeless. We have to invest in teachers, and we're not doing it. And we used to do it, and I think we need to get back to that. Thank you.
Yeah. Our third and final Q&A question is on healthcare. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded, single-payer, privately delivered, affordable, comprehensive, high-quality, and sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
I'm glad I get to answer this last because, frankly, I was never a political person. I'm a lawyer by trade, but when I was 20 years old and a senior in college, I was compelled to join a political campaign, and that was Bill Bradley for president. In 2000, Bill Bradley was running against Al Gore, and the fundamental core of his message was that I believe that in times of economic growth and prosperity, we have to fix our roof, and we have to make sure that we provide healthcare for all Americans. It was the only campaign that I ever worked on. And so I can tell you that the realities of inadequate and underfunded healthcare systems are near and dear to me. My mother was a nurse in the VA hospital, worked nights, and I would often visit her. By the time I got a driver's license, I would take food to her so that she and the late shift could have something to eat. I know what it's like when nurses are overworked, understaffed, and in the end, who pays? The patients. This is no longer a question of ideology. This is no longer a question of individual assignment of what your politics are. We simply have to just find a way to make sure that all Californians, independent of their ability to pay or income level or class or their immigration status, have appropriate access to complete, thorough medical care. And I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to achieve that. And I want to make sure that California leads the way so that we can expand healthcare appropriately. Now, expanding healthcare appropriately means one very important thing, and that is we need to make mental health care an appropriate part and regular and necessary part of overall health. As board chair at Tri-City Mental Health, I'm proud of the fact that we're delivering creative and comprehensive solutions in our local communities. We have delivered very outstanding services to people who are unhoused, to people in our public schools, to people in our professional, in our public agencies. But that said, mental health still remains woefully underfunded, and there is some movement afoot to amend the Mental Health Services Act, but that will just be the start. We need to make mental health funding a critical priority, and to build a healthier California, I think that mental health has to be at the forefront. As board chair at Tri-City, I am prepared to continue to carry that torch.
Thank you, Jed.
Okay, so now we're going to transition to your closing statement. You have up to 2 minutes.
Well, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to earn your support. It is an honor to be with you tonight. And the thing is that I told you about some critical things that I believe in and things that I've worked on. I think I've shared with you some fundamental components about what my values are, what are the things that are important to me. But I'm not reading off a list of things that are on a website or in the abstract. When I talk to you about housing affordability, there is affordable housing being constructed in the city of Claremont that I got funding and entitlements for, and I am proud of those successes. There are people who have been housed in the last 5 years because of the homeless services delivery system that I fought for to get funded, and I am proud to show how many people that we have housed in our small city. We have reduced climate footprint by over 50% by going 100% default renewable energy, and I am proud to show the amount of kilowatts that we are now purchasing on behalf of our residents that are from totally 100% renewable sources. And I am proud of the fact that we introduce the psychiatric assessment care team, innovative, creative mental health solutions for people of all income levels through Tri-City Mental Health. These are not ideas and talking points to me. These are successes that I have accomplished in my community, and I want to deliver them for the entire district and for the entire state of California. So thank you very much for having me. It is a true honor to be with you tonight, and I would love to have your support for the 41st Assembly District. Thank you all very much. Good to see you.
Thank you again for joining us tonight. So once again, we find ourselves a little bit ahead of schedule, and that is a wonderful thing. In the chat box, you are going to you're going to get a link in the chat box that will take you directly to the pre-endorsement questionnaires that we asked of all of the candidates, and we're very thankful that each candidate completed and returned them to us. Please take the time. In addition to those 3 questions that we asked tonight, I believe we asked 10 questions of each of the candidates that hopefully give you a better insight to who they are. It does look like our next candidate is in the waiting room, so I am going to let him in. Hi, John, can you hear me?
I can. Hey, Matt.
Well, welcome. So we're going to go right to it. Thank you for joining us and the Bonita Democratic Council in their endorsement meeting for Assembly District 41 and Congressional District 31. We'll start you off with your 5-minute or up to 5-minute opening statement.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys getting on so late at night on a Thursday. And I will keep this, I think, much under 5 minutes. I think I've met everyone or most people, but for those that I haven't, I am John Harabedian, former mayor and council member in Sierra Madre, and have lived in this district, the 41st district, my whole life. I was born in Pasadena and moved to Sierra Madre. My parents moved there before I was born. Went to local schools here and graduated, went off to school and came back and served on my city council in Sierra Madre from 2012 to 2020 and really enjoyed that process, really enjoyed serving my hometown. As a lifelong Democrat, Sierra Madre has come a long way from where it was before. It was really a reddish purplish town. And when we were on, when I was on city council, really started seeing a lot of Democratic leadership in the city, and we got great things done. We built a solar array project that fully operates our water department, saves us a ton on money, and also saves the environment because we're not producing as much CO2 as we did before. We unionized our fire department. We created union jobs when I was mayor. And we made sure that we remained a full service city. And that experience really has propelled me to look and see what the state kind of more generally is facing. And I think having been born and raised here and now raising my 3 young kids who are 9, 5, and 2, I'm looking around and I just think the livability and the quality of life here in California is not as good as it could be. And I think that we are struggling to not only allow people to have an affordable place to live, a job that pays them a wage that they can let alone afford their rent, but the thought of buying a house and paying a mortgage seems almost impossible. And things like healthcare, cost of groceries, cost of gas, and everything that we're paying for are going up. And so I do think that we need to have real leadership on a number of different issues. Obviously, we need champions in Sacramento. They're going to fight climate change, but we need folks that are going to be very, very focused on the economic state of California and just how hard it is for people to survive here, whether it's our seniors on a fixed income, whether it's our young families trying to raise kids, or whether it's the folks in the middle who are just feeling the pinch of economic insecurity. And so I plan to do a lot of things once I get into the assembly. I want to build affordable housing. I want to make sure everyone has health care. I want to make sure that we have a clean energy system, but it's also affordable and it's accessible for everyone. I want to make sure that everyone feels included, and that includes our LGBT. Oh, that's a beautiful sound. That includes our LGBTQ plus community. That it includes more specifically our trans kids and children who are being targeted and being used as a political football right now by many people on the right. And I think that we need folks that are focused on, criminal justice reform, making sure that our immigrants and everyone else in this society that we live in are taken care of. And so I'm running a positive campaign. I've been a lifelong Democrat. I'm a leader in the Democratic Party. I'm a regional vice chair of the LA County Democratic Party. I'm an executive board member of the California Democratic Party. And we're running a good campaign and have gotten great endorsements from folks like Senator Anthony Portantino, the California School Employees Association, the California Nurses Association, California Environmental Voters, and the list keeps growing both locally and in Sacramento. So it's an honor to be here. Always love being with the Bonita Democratic Council, and thanks for taking the time on a weeknight.
Okay, thank you for your opening statement. We're going to transition to our 3 Q&A questions. First being on the topic of energy and environment. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We believe California must lead in forging a robust global solution to the climate crisis. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize and address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
I think at a basic level, we need to make sure that we are very rapidly getting CO2 producing cars, buildings, and anything that is producing CO2 out of the system. And so what is that going to take? That's going to take a massive investment in our workforce. We have a fair amount of very good paying middle-class jobs that are in our fossil fuel industries, and we need to transition those careers, one by one into a new green energy economy. And folks that now work in oil or gas power plants need to start working in different trades like installing solar panels and hydroelectric energy and wind energy. And those jobs need to be good union jobs that pay well. And then we need a massive investment in charging infrastructure throughout the state. The number one cause of CO2 pollution and a number one cause of climate change are cars on the road. And it's the gas powered cars and trucks and commercial vehicles that are transporting our goods that are really causing that. And we need to have a real serious conversation with each other about how do we actually get affordable electric cars, affordable commercial electric vehicles on the road, and how do we charge them? And so we're going to need massive amounts of investment in charging infrastructure throughout the state and throughout the country, so that charging is as ubiquitous as a gas station. That's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of planning. And on the planning piece, we really need to make the planning process and the approval process for any clean power jobs or project easier. Right now, you have to go through many different state entities, whether it's the California Energy Commission, the CPUC, local planning, and that is just causing delay after delay, and it's hard to actually get these things done. So we actually need to create zones within the state where there is by right development of clean energy projects, and hopefully those are near urban. Sorry, is my time up? I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just finish. We need those by urban cores. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Question number 2 is about education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to world-class pre-K through 12 public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? And what are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Thank you. Well, I think it goes without saying that we need to fully fund education. Right now, our per pupil spending and the amount of money that we're actually putting into public education has caught up over the last couple decades, but we still have a long way to go. And we need more of those dollars actually flowing into the classroom, and less of it needs to be spent on administration and overhead. And that goes with not only paying our teachers more, paying our classified employees more, but making sure that any sort of bureaucracy that's getting in the way of actually focusing on our kids and making sure that they have not only the buildings are updated and the technology that they have, the books and everything else is absolutely 21st century. We need to make sure that classroom sizes are as small as possible. We need to make sure that they have teachers and aides that are actually, making sure that each kid, whether they're learning through an IEP or they're not, are getting the best education that they can. I think that we have a long way to go. We need to completely invest in our teachers and our workforce and also our kids. I'm sorry, this is my son just walked in. And I think on charter schools, I think the funding, okay, baby, hold on. On charter schools, I think that charter schools need to obviously, to the extent they're dependent public schools, they are operating within the public school system, and they need to have accountability, and the funding, the public education funding that goes to that should be no different than a public school. But I think the accountability also needs to be there, because charter schools are going to not have to have certain things like special education and things that regular public schools do. In terms of independent public schools, and there's an important distinction there, I think obviously there needs to be a lot of oversight because they are operating independently. And I think the funding, to the extent that they are receiving public funds, there should be requirements for those schools to operate under the same rules as public schools. And so that's where I am. I think we need to fully fund our public education, and the charter schools that are operating should be a part of that conversation, and there should be obviously oversight on those schools.
Thank you, John.
Okay, and our third Q&A question has to do with healthcare. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded single-payer, privately delivered, affordable, comprehensive, and sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
Thanks for the question. I mean, I think it goes without saying that we need to work towards a universal healthcare system. We need to have everyone covered. We now have 4 or 5 million people in this state who are not covered. And we have made great strides to actually provide coverage for as many people as possible. Medi-Cal has expanded greatly in terms of covering our unemployed, obviously covering our immigrant populations, and we need to build on that. We need to make sure that the Medicare waiver and the Medi-Cal system and the federal kind of system that we have as a backbone of this country is actually taken into account when we're actually going towards a universal single payer system. And SB 770 that was just passed, I think, is an important step in actually having that conversation with the federal government, because financially and economically, we need to make sure that in going towards a universal healthcare system, we are actually making sure that we can be solvent and sustainable and not have a system that's going to fall off the cliff in the next 5 or 10 years. I think that being said, we also need to invest in our healthcare staff and our professionals. We have an understaffing and a huge shortage of nurses, of healthcare professionals across the board, and we need to reinvest and rebuild our healthcare system, especially our mental health system, from the ground up. I think we need to be building mental health hospitals. This goes directly to the homelessness issue. And I think that right now we're seeing people, unfortunately, leaving the healthcare system in terms of profession and not going into it. And that's because they're burned out. They have a lot of PTSI and PTSD. COVID and the pandemic absolutely burnt them out. And I think that we have to have a real human conversation with those that are taking care of those who are most in need, those in hospitals, those in care. We need to treat our nurses and our professionals and our doctors and our healthcare staff much better than we do. And I think it really starts from a kind of a priority of budget. How much money are we actually putting into the system? And I think we need to control costs. And that has to be a conversation we're having in the meantime, as we go to a universal system with health insurance companies, with providers, with hospitals. I think we need to prioritize, obviously, patients over profits. And I think that the hospitals and the different urgent care and triage centers need to ensure that not only is every patient who needs help
Thank
getting
you,
the
John.
best care, but it is actually in an affordable way.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for answering the questions. You now have up to 2 minutes to close.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your time and having me here. I am someone who is passionate about policy. I was someone who, in college, as a political science major, studied policy. I received a master's in social policy, and I then got my law degree. I'm someone who takes this very seriously. I am someone who has served, obviously, at a local level and am now a chair of a state commission. I'm the president of the California Acupuncture Board. I am someone who knows how local government and state government runs. I'm the only candidate in this race that's actually served for 8 years, 2 full terms on a city council. I'm the only candidate in this race who is endorsed by State Senator Anthony Portantino, and I'm the only candidate in this race who actually has delivered clean energy and projects that are delivering clean energy in the district. I would be remiss if I thought that, you know, this is a district that is it deserves the best leadership possible. We need someone in Sacramento who is going to hit the ground running and is not going to be trying to learn the job as it comes. I'm someone who has been in the trenches. I know policy. I know how Sacramento works. I know enough, but I'm new enough to actually try innovative solutions to tackle some of these pressing issues. I would love your support. I feel good about this race, and I do hope that no matter who gets the endorsement, a good Democrat ends up winning this race, regardless of who it is, whether it's me or the other 2 people in this race. So I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John. And moreover, thank you for adhering to our time limit tonight. You have kept us on target and on time. So
All right.
again, thank you for joining us. And for those members who are still with us, I just wanted to remind you, in addition to these 3 questions, each and every one of our candidates tonight have completed a pre-endorsement questionnaire. That's 10 additional questions that give you an additional perspective on who they are. And it is our goal and part of our purpose as a club and as an executive board is to really connect you with these candidates and allow you to decide who you feel is the best possible candidate for you, so that we can then entertain your endorsement choices. So again, thank you, John. And I do believe our next candidate is on. Marianne,
I'm here.
welcome back. And we will open the floor for your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you to all of my fellow Democratic Council members. It's a joy to be part of this club, and I appreciate that you're here this evening so late. I am Ann Lutz. I'm running to be your representative in the United States Congress. But before I begin my comments, I just want to acknowledge the horrific attacks in Israel this past week and say that I stand with the people of Israel against these terrorist attacks. In 2019, I traveled to that region with the Rotary Action Group for Peace and several dedicated Rotarians from around the world. And what I learned was that these people who live in this region want peace, and they deserve to live and raise their families without fear. Any loss of civilian lives through this tragedy is intolerable. I also do not want to diminish the commitment of our country to the people of Ukraine and to their ongoing battle to keep a free democracy. And likewise, I stand with Ukraine. Now, I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, a family of Democrats in a sea of Republicans. And I grew up in a household fighting for our democratic values, for what is right, showing up no matter what the struggle, no matter the challenge. That's what I do. I show up. I do the work. I've spent the last 3 decades serving this community at the local, regional, state, and national levels. I'm a former council member in the city of Monrovia, a voter-elected mayor, and right now an elected Citrus College trustee, board trustee. I'm endorsed by more than 50 elected council members, school board members, water board members, and officials in our district. And 2 of them are with us this evening. And I want to thank former council member Dennis Breton from San Dimas and Democrat delegate Karen Suarez for being here this evening. In Washington, I will show up for you, just as I did when the gold line was in jeopardy. I stepped up and I made it a reality. Even with the opposition of my own city council, I, as mayor, pushed through the final key to unlock this project and bring the maintenance yard to Monrovia, along with it, hundreds of high-paying union jobs to our district. And I'm proud to say that because of that success, the work on the 3rd leg of the gold line continues. And with my help in Washington, we're going to get it all the way to Ontario. I will show up for you when it comes to climate change, just as I have been doing for more than 20 years. Congresswoman Napolitano will be leaving a huge legacy of water quality and accessibility, environmental management, transportation infrastructure, mental health support, and my 20+ years of experience in all of those things is exactly why she hired me all those years ago to work as a policy advisor in her office. And it is exactly why I am the best candidate to continue and build upon her legacy. I will show up for mental health for the youth of San Gabriel Valley. I was the founding member of a collaborative grassroots mental health program called Healing Connections in Monrovia, which was initially focusing on youth suicide prevention, and it's grown to a multi-city support system. And I will show up for you and our democratic values. I will hold true to these values. I am the only candidate in this race who is a true environmentalist with credibility in addressing climate change. And unlike other candidates in this race, I will not take money from oil, big pharma, gun, tobacco, or charter schools. I am passionate and I'm serious about showing up for you, not just for photo ops and not for the CNN sound bites, but to do the work. Because that's what I do. I show up and I do the work.
Okay, thank you for your opening statement. We're going to transition to our Q&A portion of the night. The first question is energy and environment. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We believe California must lead in forging a robust global solution to the climate crisis. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize and address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
Well, I agree that this is vital. Let's acknowledge first that it's all connected. You know, in California, we're on the right track. We're taking the right steps, but we need to take these steps to Washington, D.C. You know, as I said before, I took the no fossil fuel pledge. This is important to me. Here's what we do first. First, we have to understand that EPA was gutted by the previous administration. That's the first order. Get them back to doing the work of climate change. I support clean, renewable energy portfolios that include wind and solar. And there have been some great bills in Washington in the last couple years to do just that. One of them is the Clean Energy Omnibus Amendment Act. And the first thing I want to do when I get to Washington is look at all of these bills and all these acts and see how I can add to them, see what they need, what the next steps are, add to them and build. I very much like a lot of the Green New Deal, specifically because it calls for and encourages skilled labor jobs to create the infrastructure that we need to meet our climate change goals. And I support electric vehicles, but we need more investment in the infrastructure. And I support investing in public transportation, like our Gold Line, like the Metro Rail. We need to really get that back here to the district. Our Earth is getting hotter. We have in the last 3 months, 2 of them were the hottest on records. Fire prevention is a must. It's part of climate change. We need to make sure that we are taking preventative measures and that the federal government is investing in preventative measures. And we need to make sure that FEMA is funded, fully funded. Water resilience, drought, water storage, infrastructure conservation. These are things that are important for water. Most of that work can be done with the water infrastructure bills. These are bills that happen every year in Washington, D.C. And I know that because when I worked with Congressmember Napolitano, I helped write these bills. I actually wrote a bill with a mayor in Ohio to start infrastructure, which is one of the reasons why she hired me. And that bill has passed. And so climate change is very connected and it affects every aspect of our lives. Every bill that comes before me should have part of climate change in it. And I want to make sure that every bill has climate change inside of it.
Thank you. Question number 2 has to do with education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to world-class pre-K public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and teachers who serve our children and families? And what are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Thank you for that question, Tracy. First of all, I do not accept money from charter schools. I believe charter schools are and they should be funded and treated like they were private schools. Public money belongs with public schools. It is a shame that right now in Washington, there is so much work to undo from the past administration, and the last administration just decimated the education department. That's job one. Our greatest resource in education is our teachers, and it all starts there. We have to pay them their worth. We have to make sure that we are supporting them. And in Washington, I want to do it this way. First, I support HR 82, which is called the Social Security Fairness Act. And if you're not familiar with it, if a teacher works outside of their education, say during summer break, their job, they will pay in Social Security. But right now, that Social Security, they're not allowed to collect it when they retire. So this act would correct that, and so that their money doesn't just go down the drain. I support that. If it's not passed, but by the time I get there, I will make sure that we bring it back and we pass it. We have to have our teachers' backs. We have to make sure they know that we are there for them and protect them emotionally, physically, and financially from the far right that is demonizing the work that they do to educate our children. Safety for our schools is very vital and important. We have people out there, because we can't get safe and sound gun control through Washington, which I will push for. We have to make sure that our schools are safe for our teachers. We need workforce housing. In Washington, I want to work with HUD and make sure that we incentivize low and moderate housing. California, our average house rate is $700,000. Mississippi, it's $170,000. We have a problem. We also need to invest more in STEM and arts classes and make sure that we are not involved in those crazy people who want to ban the books and are trying to take away the rights of our LGBT students.
Thank you. Okay, and we're going to transition to our third and final Q&A question. This is in regards to healthcare. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded, single-payer, privately delivered, affordable, comprehensive, high-quality, and sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
First off, I support the legislation exactly as you've described it. Not just for Californians, but for all Americans. I support the work that the Biden administration has done in reducing the cost of drugs, and I hope to help expand on that work. And I also believe we need to take healthcare as a total program and strengthen some specific areas. We need to strengthen complete and total access to abortions and reproductive health care, complete and total access to gender care. We need to make sure that the confidentiality of minors who are seeking contraception and abortion services is maintained. We also need to strengthen and improve our mental health services. We need to improve the services at the VA. The VA is a mess. It needs a lot of work, and we need to strengthen the services for PTSD. We need to pay for long-term Medicare, long-term health care, and long-term care of life. We also need to have robust addiction treatments, both in-house and outpatient, throughout this country. We're in the middle of an epidemic. We're not doing enough to treat people for that. Healthcare should also include eye care and dental care. And while we may not be able to get a single bill to accomplish all of this, it's a chipping away that needs to be done. We can start in the right direction. We can work towards it, but I absolutely think we can get there. We just need to take it and make it a priority. And I'm willing to go to Washington and make sure that it is, because healthcare is a human right and the right of every American.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to transition to the closing. You have up to 2 minutes.
First, I want to thank you for inviting me here tonight and allowing me to speak to you. I want to thank you for staying up so late, everybody. There's a lot of work ahead of us in Washington, D.C., and you just asked me to talk about 3 areas of concern, but there's a laundry list of things that need to be addressed. Immigration reform, military readiness, foreign policy, a women's right for safe and accessible abortions, protection of the LGBTQIA rights, the right of marriage, job creation. I could go on and on and on. And this is why you need somebody who's serious about showing up for you, not just in photo ops, not on CNN and the sound bites, but show up and do the work. That's what I do. I'm creating what I call my day one agenda, and this reflects the urgency of what I think we need to do in Washington and the commitment to this district. The Biden administration has done a great job of some new legislation that's bold and is going to change our country for years to come. But this is only one step. In order for our district, this district, to benefit from the legislation, we need to connect the resources to our residents. We need to bring the money back here. So day one, as your representative, I'm going to appoint a staff member whose sole job is to find federal funds and grants and match them to local government, to schools, to nonprofits and businesses. This staff member will not be in Washington, D.C. This staff member will be right here in our beautiful San Gabriel Valley. And you have a lot of choices for this seat. And I'm asking you, who knows this district? Who's been in this district? I have been in this district volunteering and in public service for 35 years. My work is in this district. My public service is in this district. I own a business in this district, and I volunteer in this district. Fighting for you and this community is why I entered public service 20 years ago, and that's why I'm running for Congress. I'm asking for your support to send me to Washington, D.C., to represent you, to be your voice, to show up for you and fight for our democratic values. Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And it does look like our last candidate is in the waiting room. So we are going to transition immediately to Greg. So thank you for joining us. Hi, Greg, can you hear me? Hello, Greg, can you hear me?
I can.
Well, welcome. So please allow me to welcome you to the Bonita Democratic Council's endorsement meeting. We're going to go right into your opening statement. You have up to 5 minutes to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Greg Haff, resident of Laverne, California, my entire life, 59 years old. And what you probably want to know is why am I running for Congress? So let me start with that and give you a little bit of history of me. When I was 18 years old, I was taken out when I first graduated from Claremont High School. I was shipped off to Texas to run by my father to run 5 apartment complexes over 1,000 units stretching from College Station to Austin. I had over 35 employees working for me at the time. It was during the savings and loans crisis, and I turned all 5 units around from 50% occupancy to 100% occupancy in 1 year and came back to college at the University of Laverne. Graduated political science and business major in my 4 years while playing varsity sports. Went on to Pepperdine, graduated with my law degree in 1990 and immediately started practicing law, specifically civil litigation, here in the Laverne, Claremont area. I've tried probably every single case there is on the civil field, everything from your basic personal injury to medical cases, breach of contract, antitrust, patent infringement cases, defamation cases, you can name it. Probably tried 100 of them to a jury trial over my 32 years. I've handled thousands of pieces of litigation and settled thousands of cases. And so I've learned how to listen, to bring adverse parties together, if you will. People that said they couldn't resolve issues, I've been able to do that, and I've become pretty proficient at it throughout my career, which I think is something that is important when you're in Congress and dealing with not only your own party, but you're looking across the aisle as well. So I have a good track record there, good diverse experience. I also sit on the board and have for probably 15 years of Prime Healthcare Services, which is a privately owned hospital chain that owns 45 hospitals, profit and nonprofit hospitals across the United States. I've been involved in the healthcare industry that way for over 30 years. I helped co-found HSA, Health Service Alliance, which is an FQHC right here in the community that about 5 years ago, not only helped found, but fund, which is a nonprofit to get them up and running. I still sit on the board with them. So I do know healthcare. I know the payor-payee system. I know the intricacies of it and the pros and cons of it in that regard. So I have a lot of experience in the healthcare field as well. I also sit on the board. I've been chairman of the board of a FDIC insured bank for over 15 years, sat on the board for 30, but as chairman of the board for over 15 years. So I'm well versed in banking, banking regulations, what's important and how they work within the economy, serving underserved communities. I know the regulations inside and out in that regard. So I have a very diverse experience, not only that, but being an entrepreneur, running a real estate company, obviously running a law office and various other businesses. So I kind of cover the gambit, and that's what I bring to hopefully bring to Congress. Why now? Well, Grace is retiring, and I think as I think it was Teddy Kennedy that told Obama, he says, sometimes you don't choose the time chooses you. And I think this might just be the time. So here I am, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
Okay, thank you for the opening statements. We're going to transition to the 3 Q&A questions. First being on the topic of energy and environment. Climate change is an existential threat to humanity. We believe California must lead in forging a robust global solution to the climate crisis. What do you think is necessary and urgent to prioritize and address the threat of climate change to our planet and public health?
I think one of the most important things is before we can address how to treat it, we have to understand where most of our problem is coming from. And once we get a handle on that, then we can address it. And the three major factors that are affecting climate change right now are transportation, heating and electricity, and industry. When we look at it, transportation, including everything from shipping to airplanes, trains, automobiles, 18-wheelers, and so forth, probably being the biggest one of all. So once we understand where it's all coming from, then we can better come up with solutions. And running for Congress, I have to look for solutions at a federal level. And so I'm excited as to what the Biden administration has already started to do and what's been implemented in that regard. But we still have a long way to go, and we need to accelerate our growth into the renewable energy field. I think that's critical. I think if anybody read the New York Times today, it's unfortunate, but the suggesting that fossil fuels are here to stay, and they're here to stay for a while, based on Exxon's purchase just recently, and how complex it is. But we still need to accelerate in that way in renewable energies with incentives and tax incentives to do that. I mean, I drive a Tesla and I have solar panels on my roof, so I'm trying to live it, not just talk it. I think also we need to start looking hard at a carbon tax at a federal level. I know we have that at the state level, and it's working. In fact, I think I just got $1,000 back, or excuse me, not quite 1,000, but a couple $100 on my electricity the other day by way of check. So it works.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks.
So I think at a federal level, we need to do it. It's not going to be easy. There's a lot of leaders that are in districts that.
It's time.
I'm sorry, you said time?
Yes.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Thank you. Question number 2 is about education. We believe in a universally well-educated population. To achieve this, California students must have access to a world-class pre-K through 12 public education that will prepare them to live, work, and thrive in a multicultural, multilingual, and highly connected world. If elected, what will you do to support our public schools and the teachers who serve our children and our families? And what are your thoughts on charter schools and how they should be funded?
Okay. Probably a great question for the AD, one for an assembly, because most of the funding, as you know, comes through the state level. But at the federal level, I think we need to invest in grants for kids to get accessible technology. There's a lot of kids in underserved areas that right now, unfortunately, don't have internet, and those that do have internet, unfortunately, don't have the technology to use it. And I think that's critical in that regard. I think we also need to invest in after-school programs in that nature as well, to keep kids in diverse neighborhoods, if you will, from getting into trouble, and just trying to stay out of trouble if they can, in that area. In regards to charter schools, they have their pros and their cons, right? Charter schools are a lot like private schools. You can do unique and diverse kind of educational systems, curriculums, more one-on-one type of teaching. They satisfy some frustrated parents. The cons basically are that they take away money from public schools, right? There's not a lot of accountability, and they mostly probably end up in areas that don't necessarily need them the most, in the underserved communities, which is where, if you were going to do it, is where you would think they would benefit the most, but they don't end up there. So all in all, my feeling, when I weigh it, is I'm not a big proponent of the charter schools.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're going to transition to the third question. This has to do with healthcare. California Democrats believe that healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. The California Democratic Party advocates legislation to create and implement a publicly funded single-payer, privately delivered, affordable, comprehensive, and sustainable healthcare system that provides universal coverage for all Californians. If elected, what will you do to build a healthier future for all Californians?
Yeah, the question sort of presumes that a perfect world in regards to healthcare. And although I think it's something that we all should strive for in that regard, I don't want to be the pessimist in the group, but given the state of things are today, it's hard to achieve utopia. So I get the question, but it's a very complex web. I mean, like I said, I've been on the board of Prime Healthcare for years. I started healthcare clinics in that regard, and so I know how complex they are. But with that being said, I think we do need to increase the FQHCs in this country. They're formulated to serve the underserved communities, to get them not only affordable, but accessible healthcare. We need to give more support to rural hospitals that lack the funding, that are shuttering at an unbelievable rate across the country, leaving many communities with no alternative, having to drive 30 to 60 miles to the nearest hospital. So we need to support them more. And then lastly, I'm a proponent of trying to reduce the age of Medicare from 62 to 60. I think that would expand it. I think if you ask any provider, whether that be the hospital, the institution, or the doctors, every one of them would probably unanimously support a single payor system, such as Medicare, because they're tired of dealing with insurance companies and their red tape and their denials of payment and so forth and so on. At least with Medicare, they know what they're getting. And I know that the public, and a lot of them say, keep government out of our healthcare, but listen, with Medicare, you're already into it, 40% of the population, and with Obamacare, you're in it even way more than that now. So the reality is that we do have government healthcare. And I think if you slowly started to reduce the age of Medicare, you would get closer to that broad healthcare, accessible and affordable healthcare.
That's time. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to transition to your closing statement. You have up to 2 minutes.
So I've told you who I am. Let me tell you why I think I'm the best candidate for you to endorse in that regard. My opponents in this case is one, Bob Archuleta. He sort of the accidental state senator, if you will. If anybody knows his history, he'd be 77 years old if he was elected to Congress. He's not going to be there that long, can't get enough power over time in that sense. So I don't think he's the candidate that we're looking for. I think Susan Rubio doesn't have the diverse experience that I've had over my years. She's been a fourth grade teacher, I think, for 17 years, a state senator for 6, but is heavily funded by insurance companies and the oil industry. So not the perfect candidate in my mind. And as far as Gil Cisneros is concerned, he was working at a packing plant, was laid off, and 2 weeks later won the lottery. So I don't know how much experience in the real world that he has in comparison to me from my broad experience in business and so forth. So with that in mind, I'm ready for this job. I don't need to do it. I certainly made enough money in my life where I don't have to do it. But I'm in it, and I'm in it to win it, and I'm in it because I want to set a precedent and for my kids that you're never too old and you've always got enough energy to do something good. And so, well, I'm here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that is the conclusion of our interviews for tonight. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, this endorsement interview meeting is being recorded. We will be placing it on our YouTube channel for the benefit of our members and of the community at large. So we will let everyone know when it is available. We do anticipate it being available on our YouTube channel at the latest by the weekend. Also, just really want to thank all of the candidates who showed up tonight. Everyone did. And they also, as I mentioned on a few occasions, each and every one of the candidates completed a pre-endorsement candidates questionnaire. And it is our goal, it is our purpose as a club to make sure that we do what we can to educate our members, educate our communities that we serve. And as all of you know, we serve the communities of Laverne and San Dimas. So it is through these interviews, it is through the questionnaires that we will share as broadly as we can to connect our candidates, our progressive values to as many people who are seeking that information. So again, for all of you who joined us live tonight, thank you, thank you, and thank you. It's probably not the top thing on your mind to do on a Thursday night, but allow me to wrap it up. Bonita Democratic Council will be using Election Buddy to conduct our endorsement votes. Only active members will be allowed to vote, and voting will commence after this meeting. We will be setting it up. So we hope that the election will be live as soon as 10 o'clock tonight. Election will have a duration of a few days. We want to give our membership, our active members, the opportunity to get better acquainted with each and every one of these candidates, either through watching this video, going through the pre-endorsement questionnaires, but we don't want this decision to be a rush decision. Again, our purpose as a club is to connect our membership to these candidates and to get them better acquainted with their options. So the voting will end on Tuesday, October 17th at 11:59 p.m. Results will be shared prior to the California Democratic Party's pre-endorsement conferences on that following weekend. Over the years, Bonita Democratic Council has hosted several successful candidate interviews and endorsement meetings. Regardless of the endorsement results, again, it is our sincere hope to help our membership and the Democrats of Laverne and San Dimas to get better acquainted with each and every one of the candidates. And again, want to thank the candidates for completing those questionnaires and for joining us tonight. And we want to thank each and every one of you all for joining us live tonight. We had back-to-back interviews, nonstop, and we did it. So it's 9:18, and we had nothing else on our agenda tonight other than the candidate interviews, and that took the full night. So I want to thank you all for joining us. We will conclude our meeting at 9:19. You all have a great rest of your night and be on the lookout for your ballots.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Cash, we'll see. We'll see you around, Cash.
Hey, you stay strong, my friend.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thanks for helping the veterans.
Oh, absolutely.
God bless you, brother. I just want to make sure we're not sticking around late anything after this and just confirm that.
Nope,
we're good.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Hey, Matt, you did a great job.